Welcome. Get the fuck out. To make this video because I have nothing else better to do. So I'm gonna give you guys some updates because it's been a while since my last hit video. Yes, this time I got above 3 likes. Yes, Miss Mamas is killing it. I'm going to be working at Panda Express. Yeah! I realized that I do not have a grasp on how to actually do anything with my life that's meaningful. So I'm going to be working at Panda. Yeah, I'm going to be the one, chopping up your veggies and giving them to you. Okay, are you ready for it? Are you happy for it? Okay. I said, well, maybe I should sit there and talk about what's going on in the UK. The UK girlies are going through it. But I said, you know what? I might have that playing in the background. But really what I wanted to talk about right now is something I felt like I haven't talked about in a while, right? Something I felt like I haven't talked about. I talked about it here or there, but I haven't talked about it in a while, right? And a lot of my audience, I believe that I've, gained are, Christians, right? I don't know, because most black people I know are Christian, but there's a lot that's been going on now where a lot of people haven't been going to the churches. Now, a lot of people still believe in God, but a lot of people haven't been going to the churches, and so I have to come in, I have to put my hat in the ring, and I have to sit there and start talking about what has taken place. Hey, don't judge, darling. For me, I'm also one of those people who have not been going to church. I know. Hold on. Don't you judge me. And you know what? I've been looking at a lot of atheists online. I've been looking at a lot of, atheist content, a lot of agnostic content. I was in my new age era for a while. I just, I think yesterday I was looking at that Netflix movie, Tarot. Well, it's not a Netflix movie, but it's on Netflix now, even though it should have been a Netflix movie because it's really bad. I looked at it and I hated it, and it just reminded me that I am not somebody who wants to get into the tarot world. A lot of great illustrations, a lot of great things going on, monsters and witches and warlocks and other shit like that. And it was great, but I decided it was not for me. I decided that it was time to grow up. And I was kind of tired of staying up at 3 o'clock in the morning and saying, oh my gosh, this love tarot means that he's gonna, send me a DM. And the only person sending me a DM is somebody who has my data. And that's why today's sponsor, I'm just kidding, I'm not there yet. I don't have a sponsor. I was just practicing. I'm not there yet. Right now, I do believe in God. I believe in God. The big G-O-D, the big dog upstairs, right? The big guy. I believe in him, but at the same time, I don't believe in that Bible. Let me take her out. Huh? Miss Bible. I don't believe in her. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to tell the internet what has happened because you will be gagged and you will be sitting there like, oh my gosh, Alex, how could you let this happen to yourself? But I'm going to keep it in the drafts. I'm going to keep it in the drafts because I don't think you're prepared. I don't think you're prepared to find out what took place to me. I don't think you're prepared to find out the consequences to my actions. I am truly delivered. You're not ready. I thought that my deconversion story, I thought, me not believing in the G-O-D in the same way that I did when I was a kid, I thought that was a new phenomenon. I thought in the pandemic, I had my little Rapture thing. I made a whole short film based off of it. I had my little Rapture thing, and I was like, you know what? This is something. I feel like I'm getting more in tune with my religion is what I'm trying to say. But after a while, I was kind of just like losing it a bit. I think because I was queer, right? I was a Fruit Loop, and that's a lot of I'm in the Bible Belt. I literally live right next to a church. The church is right across the street from us. And, I was like, well, you know what? There's a lot of other gays, other girlies who still believe in God. They still believe in the G-O-D, right? And so it's not that I didn't believe in God, but I was really starting to get strained with religion. I am a former pastor's kid. And so having parents who we had our own church since the 2010s, right? And lasted for a couple of years, and then we eventually had to let it go. But we had it for a while, and I have always been someone who has always been around the church, who've always talked to church people, church folks. Has always been a thing. And so I've always had that particular type of relationship. And being a queer person, having my certain issues, having a Gen X, Gen X parents, I started to become kind of fatigued with Christianity. I found that the people who really like church are the ones who weren't forced to go to church. Growing up in my household, my parents weren't people who cussed. They weren't people who went around and acted a fool. They weren't people who were, extra. My parents, especially my dad, love him. Low key, kind of classist. I'm just gonna keep it a bug. Gonna keep it a bug. Not everything is ghetto, right? Not everything is ghetto. Not everybody is looking at us. It's not that serious. And so, I had a taste of that particular type of mindset where it was like, okay, this is ghetto, this is foolish, this is whatever the hell it is. And I used to kind of be lectured, oh, we need to go to church. I don't know if they still do this. I don't know if Gen Z parents do it. You got clothes on your back, a roof over your head, and food in your mouth, right? I used to hear that all the time, and I was like, I still don't want to go to church, though. Like, that's the thing about it. When I used to go to church, there was a lot of drama, right? There was a lot of drama. There's this one dude that I knew who's like a friend of my dad. It's one of them. They're not going to know who it is, so no need to guess. And he was a choir director. And that's why they say, it's weird to be homophobic, right? Because a lot of the people that's in the church, especially involved in music, are, Fruit Loops. And I remember, going to the church and him just being kind of sassy, right? He was leading the pack. Right, he was the one. He was sassy before the girls even knew what sassy was. Before the straight girlies, let's say it like that, knew what sassy was. Because I was in a closet made of glass, and so there was no, me not knowing what sassy was. I was being sassy without even really trying to be sassy, and so this is homegrown. This is not out of a lab. This is natural. And so me being somebody who's going into the choir and having to deal with a straggit, sorry, but it's true, having to deal with the straggit, him being sassy, and him, kind of being shady and coming for people who are not doing the right notes. I mean, yes, get the girls right so they can have perfect pitch, but also your pitch is not so perfect. When I was having to deal with keeping up appearances and being heckled by one of the members who was trying to get me to speak in tongues, I was like, yes, Lord. Five guys. I was sitting here just making up stuff, but at the end of the day, I said, baby, I want to go home. This is a Wednesday night, and I have to get up on that sorry-ass bus to go to school. I don't care. And there was moments where I kind of, gave into certain ideals and certain messages that, a lot of Christians would get into. Before the AI Jesus that you would see on Facebook, there was a lot of other things that were happening, right? In the Mississippi area, in 2013, I believe. And I remember I was on Facebook, and I remember there was something, I don't know, something was happening where there was a Jesus statue, but I don't think it was in Harrisburg, Mississippi. It was somewhere else. But it was a Jesus statue, and it was standing up, and it was around all the rubble. Yes, a tornado hit, and it literally, it wiped out a bunch of houses, and some people have died, but what remained out of all of that was a Jesus statue. And I remember at the time I was looking at that, I was gagged. I was like, oh my gosh, Jesus is working. Yeah, Jesus is working. He's working for our good. Jesus is here. And then I look back on that and I said, but didn't people die? Yeah. How old was she? Oh, she was young. I mean, if she was old, it would still be fucked up. But how old? Oh, okay. Well, didn't people? Well, it's all the break every chain. I was like, it's all in his favor. It's all in his good. Like, let's not make it a big deal. No, I remember there was this one time. I forgot the pastor's name, but she's known. She's a white woman. And she had a story about how she got molested by somebody in the family, which is an unfortunate thing that happens all the fucking time, which, Jesus Christ. And I remember sitting here having an argument with my dad in the car, because I was like, that's weird that she had to go through that. Because she keeps trying to justify that happening to her, that she had to get molested in order to get closer to God. And he was like, no, what she's saying is, she's saying that, she's not saying it was right, but she's saying that that's something that she used to get closer to God. I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to blame the victim. But at the same time, also, why didn't God help her? Stay with me. If God is so powerful, why didn't he stop her from getting molested. Oh, well, he did. I said, okay. He tried to do it. I said, oh, okay. What's the tea? He tried. I mean, he's an all-powerful deity, so you don't have to try. You know, if you're an all-powerful deity, there is no trying, there's doing. There's nothing there stopping you because you're an all-powerful deity. So I was like, well, why didn't he? Well, he did. He tried. You know, in her story, you know, she said that there was people that, you know, God tried to talk to, but they just didn't help. There was people that God tried to talk to, but they didn't want to do it. They didn't want to help. They didn't want to help her. And I'm like, okay, but what does that got to do with her? You know, that I was like, okay, but that's not a justification. It's this whole free will statement that keeps being pushed out, that free will narrative, where I'm like, yes, we do have free will. If I do something I have no business doing, I suffer the consequences. If you do something you have no business doing, you suffer the consequences. But the problem is, what comes with that is that we are also at the expense of somebody else's free will, right? And so we can do everything we can to make sure, you know, to lessen the probability that something might happen or something awful will happen at the expense of someone else's free will. If you're driving down the fucking highway and then somebody crashes into you, it was not your fault. You did nothing wrong. That was that person's free will and that person's decision, and now you're dead. And so at the end of the day, even though that seems like a crazy scenario, even though that happens every single fucking day, I'm sure it happened just right now as I'm saying it, it's something that you have to deal with as a human being. And so the free will argument that I've seen a lot within the Christian space, it felt very up and down with me. I was like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, that doesn't make sense. Okay, that makes sense. That doesn't make sense. Because at the end of the day, I had to realize that that was not really helping me. I remember thinking, right, I thought about certain stuff that I used to do when I was younger. I remember there was times when I was at my old house, a couple of blocks down in the other suburbs over there somewhere, and I was in the house, and I remember speaking in tongues and crying. Now, I want you to hear what I was speaking in tongues and crying about. I was in my room. I was speaking and crying, speaking gibberish, like I'm having a seizure, but yet somehow I can still be vocal. I was speaking gibberish, going around my house, crying, snotting, crying, feeling the spirit, okay? Girl, I was crying so I can go to Disney World. To get healed from cancer. To get out of a financial situation. To make sure that somebody stays alive. To help me with a disease to get out of poverty. No, baby. I was crying, hooting and hollering. I was on my last leg, shaking, honey, because I wanted to go to Disney World. I had enough. That's the type of stuff that I was doing. And, you know, I'm a kid. I'm a little fellow. And so, of course, you know, I thought, oh, my gosh. But looking back on it, you know, we all do cringy stuff as a kid. But I said, why would I waste a prayer on Disney World? And I just thought that made sense, right? As I got older, I started to like piece certain things together. I said, you know, I started to hear a lot of stories, right? There was different things that I saw, right? There was one time I was in the church, and the pastor had something, you know, put on the screen, you know, where the pastor blew into the mic. My dad's done this before, you know, blew into the mic and I'm like, girl, get up, girl. You falling, but you need to get back up. And I remember I was looking at it and I was disturbed, right? And I felt like I was the only one that was disturbed because everybody else was just like, oh, yes, amen. Oh, amen. And I'm like, that's not strange to y'all? That's not strange to y'all? Y'all don't feel a little bit disturbed by that, huh? You don't feel disturbed? You don't feel a little bit, you don't feel a little bit anxious about what's going on there? You don't feel a little bit anxious, huh? I was disturbed, right? Imagine I'm sitting here, I'm having a good time. Woo, amen. Next thing you know, whoosh, I'm falling down. And imagine if everybody else is falling down and you're still standing up. You need to get with the program, because then the pastor's going to bring your ass all the way up to the front to make a statement, because he's like, oh, I'm not going to let nobody, pussy me out in front of the whole congregation. I'm not going to let nobody sit there and make it seem like I don't know how to give miracles. So then you have to go all the way up there and give a whole performance. He don't have to come in your ear and say, you know what needs to be done. You know what needs to be done already, because you should have did it the first time. And you have to walk your ass all the way up to the front of the pew in front of all those people and sit there and shook and jive for the Lord. I don't want to do that. And you know what's also funny about Christianity, right? No matter what different denomination, because I'm like, girl, why we have so many different denominations? And also we say we don't cherry pick the Bible. Everybody cherry picks the Bible. Everybody cherry picks Miss Sis. Let's not come for her. She's worldwide. Let's not come for Miss Bible. Everybody cherry picks her though. Nobody gets the same Bible. She's not the same friend with everybody. So let's keep it a buck. She's different. She's different with everybody. You know how she gets. And so at the end of the day, when we're sitting there talking about Miss Bible, at the end of the day, I'm like, everybody cherry picks. You quite literally have to cherry pick in our modern age. You cannot follow the Bible straightforward. The only reason that they, especially with the homosexuality, right? Because homosexuality is seen like the worst thing known to man. The only reason they do that is because it's easy to do. It's easy to come for homosexuals. It's easy. You just come for them. You're just like, oh my girl, you really gay? Abomination! And you call it a day. And then you go to a restaurant, you do a Negro spiritual, and you talk about how God has done so much for you, and you call it a day, right? There's so many different interpretations of the Bible, right? And I remember just sitting here being like, Christians, they always talk about everybody else. They always talk about everybody else being, everybody else being demonic. They always talk about everybody else being demonic. If you worship gods and goddesses, you're demonic. That's what they get told. Because you worship an elephant with a whole bunch of hands. You worship Allah, right? You worship this person, right? It's a whole thing. And so I used to be like, oh, but when I grew up, my parents were just like, these people are scary. They would show somebody doing some African spirituality. I remember looking at it, seeing the Africans, the voodoo people, and being like, oh, my dad would be like, turn that mess off. Oh, turn that mess off. That's demonic. Then I would go to the church a couple of days later, and I would see somebody catch the Holy Spirit, and they would go, that's how it's kind of like a car revving up. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, okay. I was just playing my Candy Crush. I was just playing my Candy Crush on my phone. I don't know what the hell she's doing. I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? For real. Hey. What's going on? I remember she went to the front, and Miss Mama started rolling in the deep. No, Adele. She started rolling on the ground, right? Because it's like, okay, if you're up in the front, it's like a bird's eye view or something, it's like, I can have a different angle, I'm distanced from the drama. But you're right next to me, sis, and now you're shaking, you're juking and jiving. Yeah, it's like you're about to, like, whoa, hey, what's going on? You're catching the fighting spirit, it's like you want to swing on me. I didn't do anything. I know you saw me only give like 2 pennies for tithes and offering. I don't know why you're trying to take it out on me. I did not do anything. I would look at them though, convulsing on the floor. And I would be like, is that not similar to this person rolling their eyes to the back of their head, chanting for the ancestors? I'm like, is this not the same thing? And then I realized just how intentional verbiage is. Just how intentional language is. Because the way that, especially in this age of media and politics and AI and misinformation and all this other shit, it's very intentional, not only the tone of your voice, the inflections within your voice, but just the verbiage that you use in the different types of language that is being presented in front of the audience. And I remember just sitting here listening to certain stuff and, them being like, it's demonic. But I was like, you're talking about possession, but you're saying you caught the Holy Ghost. But no, hold on, Alex, hold on. Watch your mouth, you filthy animals. It's the Holy Ghost, though. So it's not a spirit, it's the divine. And I'm like, well, you said you caught it. when I catch something, I have it in me. Okay? And so you said you caught it. Is that not a form of possession? No, because it has a positive connotation. That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at. It has a positive connotation, and so the possession is not seen the same. But the different spirits, they let them in, they ask for offerings and shit like that. They sacrifice a lamb. And then some random people will be like, oh, that's so demonic. And I said, okay, well, just because you don't sacrifice a goat, I mean, you just had goat at your local restaurant. So that technically that goat was killed. So you had some lamb with some mashed potatoes at your local restaurant. And so I don't understand why you're trying to come from the village because they sacrificed a goat. And it's very weird, the cognitive dissonance, the different mental gymnastics that happen. Because I said, do we not even understand the way the Bible works? One minute we say God is all peaceful and loving, but then we say don't mess with God because he's wrathful and he will get you together, girl. And it's just like, I'm kind of like, what's going on? Because we're making it seem like God is just nice, loving. He doesn't do anything wrong. I'm like, no, he does. What I also hate, what also made me kind of leave the faith was this: all sins are the same. No, they're not. Especially when we're talking about homosexuality, because for some reason, out of all the sins in the world, homosexuality is the worst thing that can ever happen known to man, right? Because the most pure and holy thing you could be is heterosexual. Heterosexuals have done nothing. All right, they're so pure. And so at the end of the day, you will hear all of this shit about heterosexuality, and be fruitful and multiply. And I can say that a lot of straight people have multiplied. I have people in my own family who have multiplied, and that's their right? There's a reason why I have so many cousins, right? People have multiplied plenty. I would hear all of this time the rebuttal to the argument of, okay, well, you're sitting there mistreating gay people, you're mistreating women, you're mistreating insert any other demographic that you have, right? And they would sit there and say, well, God sees all sins the same. That's God. Yeah, that's God. That's capital G-O-D. That's not me. I don't see all sins the same because I am a human being. I'm not even on the same playing field as God, right? God is in a whole different type of thing, a whole different type of mindset. That's God. That's not me, though. And that's not a lot of people on this planet. I'm not going to think someone going out of their way to randomly murder somebody is the same as somebody being a homosexual. I'm not going to think somebody who's a homosexual being a predator is the same as somebody doing drugs. I'm not going to see somebody the same as somebody who went and decided to abuse their spouse as somebody who's having issues with food addiction and gluttony. Those aren't the same to me, sweetheart. And at the end of the day, if somebody were to sit there and kill somebody, maybe they had to. Maybe they had to defend themselves. Maybe they did kill somebody and it was wrong, but at the end of the damn day, that person was abusing them. That person was beating them. And nobody would have known, because there's plenty of people who have gotten away with doing nasty, awful shit to their children and they never went to jail. We still have people who slipped through the cracks and they got away with the most atrocious, demonic, nasty ass shit. So at the end of the day, when someone's saying, oh, all sins are the same, I'm like, absolutely the fuck not. No, it's not the fucking same. No. And, I'm not even going to go into the debate of the whole, Christianity and slavery thing. That's very questionable. Think about the intentionality of God being a white person. Right now, in different types of things, like The Chosen, we have different people of color who are now presenting Jesus, not God, Jesus as, somebody of a person of color, somebody who has at least some tint in their skin, somebody who you can tell is of a particular type of descent that isn't Caucasian or white, right? Because the literal people of Caucasus, I believe the Caucasus Mountains said, y'all need to stop saying that because, y'all shouldn't have stole Caucasian because that's our shit. I remember that and I was just like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. My best estimate of to why, religions exist, a lot of people made a debate that a lot of religions exist because it's a way of humans coping with their existence. Right now as I'm speaking, as I'm animating, I am on a rock, a very tiny rock that is around a very big ass sun that can kill us in seconds, and also around a moon, and we are orbiting right now. We are in space right now. Can I tell the audience, I know you're distracted by your family and your obligations. I know you have to get out of a certain situation you're in. So I understand why you're not thinking about that particular type of thing, because you have to keep your eyes on the prize and you don't have the privilege to think about that. But when you do have the ability to think, I want all of us to understand that we are on a rock in space. No scientists have been able to understand why, and no scientists have been able to understand where we came from. And I'm sure if we ever found it out, will it be good? Will it not be good? I make the argument that maybe a bit of both. And, that's great and all. That's great. But we don't have the answers. The atheists, the debaters, the intellectuals, they say, the Big Bang Theory and all the other things of how we came to be. The religious people, they say, well, God made us, which is quite literally the Big Bang Theory, but like just God did the Big Bang. Everyone has their own theories, and it's very similar. The way I think of it, I do think that people may religion as a way to cope with reality. I do think people made religion to cope with their existence, to cope with the reality that we live, to cope with a lot of the different things that we go through. I do think that. But at the same time, I also believe that though it is a way to cope with reality, though it is a way to cope with the existence in a way that we live, I do also believe that it is something where I think if everybody around the world has some form of spirituality and religion, that there is some truth to that. I just think that there is one. I don't think there's multiple gods. I think there is one. I just think that that one deity is kind of just allowing everybody to choose their own thing, right? So everybody kind of just choose their own lore, choose their own little stories, choose their own way, because there's good values in almost any type of religion. And when I mean almost any, I really mean that. There's good values, good intentions with almost any, just like there's people with bad intentions within any particular type of religion. You quite literally can see with any type of religion, spiritual practice, somebody with ill intent. You see it with Christianity, you see it with Buddhism, you see it with somebody who's a practicing witch. It's nobody of any type of religion or spiritual practice is exempt from having somebody in that practice or something in that practice doing something that can hurt people of society. That's just what the fuck it is. I always get mad when, growing up in Christianity, there would be a lot of Christians that would be like, we're loving and we're understanding, but they choose to get on their high horse about certain things where they're like, oh yeah, but we're not demonic like that. I'm like, I know you're imagining some white woman who looks like she goes to Coachella every single fucking year, and she's in the middle of the woods, and she's convulsing in front of a big bonfire naked, and she's sitting there worshiping Satan. I know that that's kind of the mindset that we have with practicing witch, but some of these witches are probably just sitting here going to their like little broke down apartment. They're probably putting on Erykah Badu and sitting there talking about, oh yes, the great spirit or whatever the fuck they're talking about. And love that for them. I still don't fuck with witchcraft. No offense, girlies. You can leave the religion, but the religion never leaves you. And so at the end of the day, I love that for you. I love the aesthetic. I love the crystals. I love the smells, the aura. It's really cute. But I'm going to let you deal with it. Like, I love that for you, girly. At the end of the day, I've seen people, who I genuinely think that if there is something out there, and I believe there's something out there, that deity is just allowing people to call it whatever. I'm just being honest. I think it's allowing people to call it whatever. It's like, oh, look, here I go. I'm the Buddha now. Okay, here I go. I'm out. I quite literally think, because all of this trivialized, all of this juvenile back and forth, all of this stuff where we are debating upon the logistics of one's reality, where we're saying, no, I'm the true, I'm worshiping the true God. No, I'm worshiping the true God. No, I'm worshiping the true God. Well, there is no God. There's gods. Well, I'm doing it. I feel like after a while, I had to think to myself, I said, doesn't it seem a bit trivial? And at the end of the day, I feel like we all are kind of worshiping something on a tiny rock, and we're the only ones here. Yes, we have different things that distract us, like animals, and we have, the changing of season, because if every day was a perfect cloudless blue sky, sunny day, and every night was a full moon, and if that happens so many times over decades, as conscious beings, as people who start to notice different things, we will start to be like, isn't that weird? These people have blizzards, and we have deviations in the various different types of things that are happening seasonally, and I'm sure somebody who is very unknowing of the intricacies of why that happens and the seasonal patterns and why we got to where we got into that particular type of thing within nature, they will understand that. But if we didn't have that, and we just had sun, blue sky, very simple, moon, nighttime, very simple, no clouds, if we didn't have any deviations, if everybody had the same thing, it would drive us crazy. We would say something's off. Something's wrong. So we need these deviations and we need these different types of things that is known for this particular demographic. And we need, okay, they're human. Okay, they're dry. They're this, they're this. We need all of those different things so we can maintain some type of diversity, right? Because if everything was the same, we would start to believe in the simulation theory, right? The matrix theory, that we are all in a matrix and we're in a computer and nothing is real and somebody is, controlling our lives, right? But I don't think that is, but I think that that could be a possibility if you really think about how society is built and how the world is built and how our surroundings are built. Now, again, I can't stress enough that God is supposedly an all-powerful deity. He is, Miss Mamas. He's the real deal. And so at the end of the day, when you're telling me that God is an all-powerful deity, I'm going to need you to help people, right? People say that's very wrong, right? And this is what pisses me off, right? Because I've seen it a lot in other channels online. They say, you guys are going around and you're demanding. Oh, yeah, let me read them for filth. You get them, Joe. Somebody pick Joe up off the ground. I don't know why Joe's in it. I don't know why I put him in this scenario. You guys are hating God. You think you own him, right? Yeah, I mean business. You think you own God? No. I don't think that, actually. I don't think I own God, actually. No. I don't think that. I think that this whole idea that people don't have a right to question God is a bunch of bullshit. A lot of people, I've been privileged and I've had a bunch of privileges that a lot of people don't have. And even then, I still couldn't escape certain issues of trauma. And there's plenty of people out there who, yes, maybe they don't say nothing. Yes, they're resilient. Yes, they keep their head up. Yes, they keep going. Yes, they hustle and they bustle and they do whatever the fuck they need to do to survive. But at the end of the day, that doesn't justify the fact that they went through that to begin with. I do not like the narrative. You see this, I believe, in Buddhism, I believe, where life is suffering. I do think it's a good sentiment in a way of trying to justify why people go through some of the worst things imaginable. And it's just by chance, seemingly. We would hope so. But I just think that it's really stupid, right? I think that life should not be suffering. And I think a lot of times we allow people to do shit they have no business doing. Slavery wouldn't have happened if we didn't have people who greenlight slavery. Holocaust wouldn't have happened if we didn't have people who greenlit the Holocaust. A lot of wars wouldn't have happened if we didn't have people in high places doing shit and saying shit they had no business saying. There would have been a lot of different things that there wasn't prejudice. There would have been a lot of different things that there wasn't a lot of people doing stuff they had no business doing. And I'm not justifying certain things where somebody does things to their own children, does things to other people out in public. But then you find out there was complacency from the parents of school shooters, of murderers. They were not actually being someone who actually took certain signs seriously. There was people who were doing shit to their own kids, and then their kids do shit to their kids, and then their kids do shit to their kids. And then in order to stop that, in order to not continue the cycle, maybe they would distance themselves from their kids because they feel like something might come out of them because they are victims of that particular type of thing, which is something that you see in a lot of sexual abuse cases. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just saying what I have seen on social media, on the internet, on Google. Google is free. And so at the end of the day, when people are sitting there saying, oh, well, you know what, we need to justify this and we need to say that life is suffering and that's okay, I don't believe that. And I also don't believe that we don't have a right to sit there and say, God, what's the tea, what's going on? Because at the end of the damn day, I did not ask to go through this bullshit. They did not ask to go through that bullshit. And a lot of people's lives is built from suffering. A lot of people's just them existing, just them coming to the existence, just them being birthed into this world, is they came out of suffering. They came out of having to deal with a lot of bullshit. And so at the end of the day, when someone's sitting there saying, oh, you guys are threatening God, you guys are sitting there getting upset at God, I always say, is it that I'm upsetting God or is it that I'm upsetting you? Why did I do that? I hated that laugh. But no, truth be told, it's 9 times out of 10 I'm upsetting them. It doesn't have anything to do with God. Yeah. It doesn't. When we're sitting there regurgitating these scriptures as a way to have a gotcha moment with a lot of the public saying, gotcha, God said it. It's not about God. It's about you. It's about the ego. The Pharisees never left. The prophets, I don't know where they are, if there was ever prophets to begin with, but they're here, they're not here. They said, girl, let me sit there and wait until the next apocalypse if it ever happens. You know, that's what's happening. But the people who are supposedly, the prophets, supposedly here to save the day, supposedly here to guide us to the promised land, a lot of them are Pharisees. A lot of them are people who manipulate. If I hear a bunch of stories, right, about many different religions, if I hear stories about, different types of things where people are really getting offended on behalf of the deity, you are getting offended and you're taking matters into your own hands on behalf of the deity. The deity does not need you to defend them. The deity did not tell you to go burn that woman alive because she decided that she was disrespecting the Quran. The deity did not tell you to sit there and start killing girls in the streets because they were sitting here not wearing their hijab. The deity did not tell you to sit there and berate and belittle women because God said be fruitful and multiply and we need to sit there and bring on the new generation. The deity did not sit there and tell you that you need to sit there and belittle and beat down and ostracize people and send them out into the street of no fucking return because they were somebody being gay and you don't agree with the lifestyle. The deity never said this bullshit. This is something that is made by human beings. And that's the unfortunate truth about religion, is that religion can help a lot of people. I've seen it help a lot of people. I've seen it maintain a lot of happiness and hopefulness in a lot of people's lives. But in a lot of cases, a lot of people take it overboard, right? And we go in circles, right? In history, right? We go in circles. People are like, oh my God, people are leaving Christianity. Oh my God. Let me tell you something, sweetheart. Have you heard about the Enlightenment period? Yes. The Enlightenment period, yes. The Enlightenment period, yes. This is nothing new under the sun. Because back in the day, Christians used to be victims in America, by the way. Christians used to be victims. There used to be victimization. But if you take out your dollar bill, I said this before, take out your dollar bill right now. Take it out! Take out your dollar bill. And what does it say on that? In God we trust. Why is that, sweetheart? Because at the end of the day, at the foundation of this country, the formation of what we know as America, it was Christianity. It was the worship of God, right? When the motherfuckers were coming and wiping out the indigenous people because they dirty asses, a good amount of them believed in God. When the people were sitting there justifying slavery and justifying beating my ancestors and wiping out people, indigenous people, they justify it by God. And you can sit there and we move the goalposts all the time, right? We do this and we can sit there and talk about generalizations anyway, because men get generalized, women get generalized, gay people get generalized, black people get generalized. Everybody has their generalizations, stereotypes of a particular type of minority or community. It just is what it is. But at the end of the day, I've also noticed how those generalizations are not the same. Okay, a Christian being generalized, it may not be the same as a Muslims being generalized. These particular groups of people being generalized may not be the same as it's different types of things depending on how the world is set up or depending on how that particular type of society is set up. And the reason that so many people, evangelicals, are freaking out, and the reason that so many people are kind of over it, is because there's a lot of bullshit that was happening with Christianity. When that Roe versus Wade situation happened, and you heard the Supreme Court sit there and say that the reason they made a decision, I believe it was the Supreme Court, the reason they made that decision was because it was something that God would have wanted. It was something that God ordained. When that particular thing happened and people were justifying that, that's when you already had the whole I'm a Christian, I'm a victim thing. That's when that went out the door. Now, other people in other situations in other countries, where if they sat there and they said that they believed in God, that would be the end for them. If you're in North Korea and you say you believe in God, I don't know what you're talking about. Let's throw your ass in the jail. You better be glad. You better hope that you can even make it to the jail, or I might have to kill your ass, or I might have to sit there and make an example out of your ass, because I know you didn't just come up to me and start sitting there talking about some God. Okay? There's plenty of people outside of America who can worship God, who are Christians, but there's plenty of people outside of America who, if they do worship a God, or if they do worship, Christianity, they will get killed. So they are victims. They are victims. But the people in America, not so much. Because at the end of the day, if your religion is at the foundation of this country, if your religion, most people when they think about the West, they're thinking about Christianity, and that's at the foundation of the country, then how are you going to start going around sitting there talking about how it's the end of the world and we're victims because somebody on Facebook said F Sky Daddy? That's not quite the same, sweetheart. People will get their heads chopped off if they sit there and utter something of a different religion. And you're sitting there talking about you're a victim because somebody made you upset. That's entitlement. And that only happens because you have been a part of a power dynamic, a part of, the reason why we have so many mega churches that can avoid taxes. You have been part of a power dynamic that has been prevalent within this country for decades now. Let's keep it a buck. The new age girlies, they don't have it. The spiritual girlies, they don't have it. They do not have the same pull through. They do not have the same demographic. They do not have the same impact. You do not have to be in the Bible Belt. They do not have the same impact as people, even the Satanists, the witches, maybe with the industry. But let's be honest, the industry is changing. Okay, a lot of people don't really see celebrities the same way, so they don't even have the same impact. And even if it did, I'm not looking at Doja Cat talk about where my demons at and saying, you know what, I want to be a Satanist. I'm like, okay, girl, good for you. And I'm keeping it pushing. I'm not gonna sit there and let that, deter me. I'm not gonna let it, let me get my good book because after seeing Doja, she sent subliminal messages in my head and made me want to worship the devil. No, Casper, the door is that way, and you can go through it, so I don't have to get my ass up and open the door. You can go through it, so leave right now, sweetheart. I can't babysit you right now.